That's right, America calls them bills, as in Bill, the builder, pays his bills with bills. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to words. Specifically, words to do with banking, and no, that is not Cockney rhyming slang. When you've lived extensively in both Britain and America, there's a good chance that you've dealt with banking institutions on either side of the pond. Sometimes you even have to navigate both at the same time. Like for instance when I had to go to a Western Union here in Chicago to bail Uncle Toby out of Grimsby Prison for the 4th time. But as somebody who wasn't always such a financially savvy person, moving to the US was complicated. And it was made even more complicated by the fact that I had to navigate my new bank while learning an entirely new set of words so that the people running the banks don't think I'm an idiot. I am an idiot, but we don't need them to know that. Here are 7 British versus American banking words. Perhaps the first thing that I noticed after opening my first US bank account is that a transactional account, that is an account where my earnings would be sent to once I was eligible to work, had an entirely different name to what we used in Britain. You see, in Britain, this is usually known as a current account. And that's not because we use fruit as currency anymore. It's called current account because I don't actually know why. It's called current account because goods and services are generally consumed in the current period. Whereas in the United States, such an account is called a checking account because, again, I don't know why. Let's have a look. They're called checking accounts because traditionally they offer you the ability to write paper checks. There's a reason I was confused by that, but we'll get onto that in a bit. Before then, here's this. America loves the word bellwether. In politics, you might have a bellwether state whose election results might be a reasonable forecast of the national outcome. And in banking terminology, it turns out there's such a term as bellwether stock. And bellwether stock is a type of stock that can forecast the direction of sort of any sector, industry, or financial market. So an example of this in the United States would be JP Morgan Chase. But in Britain, and I only learned this after leaving because, you know, I'm not a financial expert, bellwether stock is known similarly as barometer stock. And so the funny thing is, a barometer is used to forecast the weather. Do you see the metaphor there? And that makes it consistent with newspaper headlines that refer to recessions as the incoming storm. It's beautiful symmetry, and I love it. And that's not to say that I understand what's going on in the financial world. As a matter of fact, I'm quite clueless. Thank goodness then for these guys. This video is sponsored by Truebill. Truebill is an all-in-one personal finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. The personal finance manager allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills, monitor your credit score, and build your savings all in one place. You know, at the start of a new year, I always like to take stock of my expenditures, and Truebill allows me to do that by identifying recurring subscriptions, making it easier for me to cancel unused ones with a single tap. For someone like me with multiple sources of income, budgeting is crucial. Truebill has continued to prove invaluable at categorizing my expenditures and helping me to visualize my spend to earn ratio by week, month, quarter, and year. Moreover, Truebill gives me complete access to my credit reports and history, and it alerts me to updates to my credit score and presents ways that I can work to improve it. And having all of this in one place really simplifies personal finance management. And on a personal note, it motivates me to stay on top of my earnings and my expenditures. To try it out for free, head to truebill.com/lostinthepond or click the link in the video description below. Now, remember a few minutes ago when I was confused about this? They're called checking accounts because traditionally they offer you the ability to write paper checks. There's a reason I was confused by that, but we'll get onto that in a bit. Yep, it turns out that sometimes it's not just the terminology that's different, but the spelling. Here's the thing, even to this day I have to consult my spell check to remember how Americans spell check. And that's because typically it is different to what I learned growing up in Britain, where we opted for a kind of French spelling of C-H-E-Q-U-E. Is that right? It sounds right. I need spell check again. And in America, it is C-H-E-C-K. Now, us Brits, we don't really lose sleep over things like this. But if we were to, we might ask the question, why did America change the spelling? And the truth of the matter is, they didn't. The original English spelling of check was precisely what Americans use today, C-H-E-C-K. But then came along a right banker, and again, that isn't rhyming slang, he really was a banker. His name was James William Gilbert. And in the 19th century, after Britain and America had both long agreed on the spelling of check, decided he wanted to spell it the French way, so as to differentiate it from other meanings of the word check, as in, check your spellings, Lawrence. And the fact of the matter is, America's dictionary extraordinaire, Noah Webster, didn't change the spelling of check because he didn't know to. It was lost in the pond. You know, it would solve everything if both countries just built a massive bridge across the Atlantic. Oh, and speaking of bridge... Okay, so here's a scenario, not based on anything factual. Let's say you take out a short-term loan, or 7, and you do so with the aim of building toward long-term financing. In Britain, this is known as a bridging loan. And the same idea exists in the United States of America, I'm told. Except here, the name that's given to such a loan is slightly different. It's called a bridge loan. And if you've ever seen my video, Britain's bridges ain't got nothing on America, you'll know that this is a rare instance of an American bridge being shorter than its British counterpart. Well, what do you know? It turns out that barometer and bellwether stock were just forecasts for different British versus American banking words to do with stock. In Britain, we have this thing called ordinary share, and this is a type of share or stock that gives the stockholder certain rights to share in company profits and to get a say in the makeup of a board of directors. In America, this is known as common stock. And this is quite interesting because the words common and ordinary can be used to mean the same thing in other circumstances. But you know, how many of us can really say that we partake in something like this? How about we finish today's list with 2 entries that affect almost everyone? You know, most of the time I just want to get my cash without speaking to actual people, and thank goodness then for the cash machine. Or at least that's how I used to refer to the wall device that deposits money when I lived in Britain. Other people back home might refer to it as a cash point or a hole in the wall, which also means toilet. That was just a Grimsby thing, right. But in most of the United States, it's quite rare to hear the term cash machine. For the most part, Americans just refer to this as ATM, which stands for at the moment. Did you get that off Urban Dictionary? No, it stands for Automated Teller Machine. And here's an interesting piece of trivia about ATMs. Despite America's dominant economic role in 20th century world affairs, the world's very first ATM, or cash machine, was opened in London in 1967, a full 2 years before America followed suit. Of course, I suppose the real question is, what precisely do we call those bits of monetary paper that cash machines actually dispense? As ever, Britain and America can't agree. That's right, America calls them bills, as in Bill, the builder, pays his bills with bills. See how this is confusing? Whereas in Britain, we usually refer to these as banknotes or simply notes. And so, owing to this word difference, I would like to bring to your attention a sentence that sums this up nicely. In America, restaurant goers pay the check with bills, and in Britain, they pay the bill with checks. I don't think people use checks anymore, but, you know, in the 20th century, that was hilarious. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever used a bank and if you've ever been confused by some of its pan-Atlantic terminology. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond. A massive thank you to my patrons who've significantly bolstered this channel's finances. If you would like to support Lost in the Pond, you can do so today at patreon.com/lostinthepond. Until the next video, goodbye.